fit for this. How did it come about?
Because I get really depressed November 1st. Like, really depressed. November 1st is like the darkest day of the year. It's like you go out in the morning and the pumpkins are all dead, like sagging, and there's like random costume bits and candy. And because Christmas was fun, but Christmas always felt like it was hiding something. Like Halloween, it is what it is. Like, you get drunk and have fun and dress up in costumes, and you don't have to, do a bunch of family responsibilities. And then Christmas just, like, I wanted Christmas to have a spooky side as a kid, and then discovered, if you just spend 10 minutes on Wikipedia studying the true history of Christmas, it's fucked up. Christmas is a dark holiday. I'm sorry, the bows, the lights, they're great, but Christmas used to be a very spooky, mystical time of year, and it used to belong to pagans who really knew how to celebrate Christmas. Lots of feasting, and it was closer in spirit to Halloween, and there were a lot of witches and ghost stories, and really, like, A Christmas Carol got it right. But there just weren't a lot. And Todd and I just started talking about Krampus because we both discovered this creature separately, and he really came back into fashion with the rise of the internet. Because he was gone for centuries because World War I sort of swept him under the rug, because the Europeans kept him alive. They used to send out Krampus cards, and they have these amazing Krampus festivals where hundreds of people dress up in sort of variations of the costume. I'm serious. If you have a kid, take them home and on YouTube look up Krampus festivals, and you'll scare them shitless. But it's that fun scare, Anyway, so long story short, we wanted to do a Christmas horror film which didn't involve Santa Claus with an axe. God bless those movies. They're fun. I grew up on them too. But that's just really easy. And we really missed the idea of Christmas magic coming to life, but in all the wrong ways. You know what I mean? Every Christmas movie involves some kid making a wish, and then his family's happy again. We want to do the opposite of that.
Well, obviously, you have had an incredible cast with Adam Scott and Toni Collette, who's like one of my favorite actresses of all time, and David Koechner, and just such a great cast. Like, how did it kind of come together? Did they kind of gravitate towards the project, or did the project go out to them, or is it a combination of both? Or
it was a little bit of both. I mean, we made a long list of actors, and we really got our first picks for the most part, and it was neat because I feel like we're definitely reaching that age where there's that nostalgia for 80s style monster movies and the Amblin films, and it just felt like we just don't have them anymore. And
we're also cast-wise lucky to get people who could kind of do drama and comedy, which is something we missed from some of the 80s movies. You had Gremlins, which is hilarious, but also kind of scary.
Or Poltergeist is hilarious. I mean, I would watch that movie if the ghosts never showed up, because the Freeling family is just really charming and fun to be with. So our first rule was finding actors that we loved, but could also do comedy and horror. I mean, Adam Scott started in Hellraiser 4. No one knew that. I forgot. But obviously Toni Collette's done Sixth Sense. And even Alison Tolman, very talented, amazing actress. She got her start in Fargo, which has that really dark humor that we loved, and that we tried to imbue into this.
One thing that I love about Trick or Treat and carries over here is your work with kids are just great. Like the kids in this are perfect. Like just across the board, so many great types, and the kid, I forget his name, who is the lead, is just such a
MJ Anthony.
Anthony. He's so perfectly a sort of embodiment, like the kind of goofy, nerdy, holding on to Christmas is what it is, but at the same time he's trying to kind of break free of it. How do you kind of like land on these great kid actors, and what's the sort of secret to getting such a great performance out of them?
Sugar. MJ Anthony would sneak sips of Red Bull in between takes. I noticed every now and then. I didn't I wasn't giving it to him, that was all his parents. But lots of auditioning, but we really lucked out with our kids because MJ was the only American kid. We shot this in New Zealand, and all the other kids were Kiwis. But it just so happened that like Stefania Owen, the older sister, she has an American mother and was born in Miami. They were living in New Zealand, so of course, you know, she ends up in Peter Jackson's movies a lot. And then lo and behold, she has this little sister who we cast as her cousin. Because the hard thing with casting kids is, in New Zealand especially, was the accent. But it's just a lot of auditioning with the kids. And then Maverick Flack is the chubby kid who didn't talk in the movie. Hence the accent's not an issue. But he was just, I mean, I looked for 50, 60 different Howie Juniors just to find that face.
His face is amazing.
Yeah.
His lips.
Yeah, the thing for killing like chubby, curly-haired kids in my movies.
What else are you doing? Now, it's surprising to me that it was shot in New Zealand. Just I don't know if they have a full 4C. I mean, obviously the snow was not real snow, but it was so great. I mean, is it? I don't know. The atmosphere. Yeah, like you captured the atmosphere so wonderfully in Trick or Treat, and in this too, you kind of capture the Christmas atmosphere. I mean, shooting in New Zealand, was it all just
Weta.
It's all wet.
Yeah. It's I don't know if you guys know Weta Workshop. They're the well, there's Weta Workshop, which does physical creature effects. So they do the old school practical monsters, all foam, latex, and rubber and wires. And then Weta Digital does, the two separate companies, Weta Digital does all the VFX. So, you know, we added some snow and stuff like that here and there, and then they handled the gingerbread men. But the mandate was always practical effects, creature effects, in-camera stuff first, and then we turned to digital when we had to. But that was the big reason to go to New Zealand. Besides, and also the crew is unreal because, you know, it's all Peter Jackson land. And so they've been well trained on 6 Lord of the Rings movies and King Kong and everything else, Avatar. So it's the amazing crews. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it looked incredible. Were there any like remarkable, like weird stories from set? Anything that I see a smile?
I find a really dark one.
Those are the best.
So it's about halfway through the shooting schedule, and we shoot the scene where the dog goes into the vents. The bulldog goes into the vents, and so essentially it was the dog's death scene off camera. And we shoot it, it's awesome. We go to lunch, come back. I get a call from my assistant in LA who's keeping an eye on my house and my dogs. And he says, "Your bulldog is dying."
Oh no.
Oh, downer on Black Friday. But it was one of those weird things where he's like, your bulldog's dying. The vet says he probably has a few hours left to live. Do you want to put him to sleep? And I'm sitting there like trying to set up the next shot and thinking, I just shot this movie bulldog's death. Is this, you know, like the Omen curse or something? Yeah. And so Krampus took my bulldog. And I don't even know if it's one of the things I want to put out there, but we did have a lot of strange family members passing away throughout.
Yeah, my own Omi, which is German for grandmother, passed away before we started shooting in January.
Of this year.
Yeah.
So it started with your grandmother. Actually, it started with your grandmother, and the day that we finished this, like the color timing, the sound mix, and everything, my grandmother died.
So we got our 3. We're safe.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people's fathers and aunts and peripheral pets dying throughout. Every department had at least one relative die.
Krampus needed his due. Well, that's sad. I'm sorry.
You say it's sad. I see the humor in it. You know what I mean? You have to.
I loved the touch of the Omi, by the way. That came from your. Is it German?
Yeah, it's German. When I was growing up, I thought her name was Omi. I didn't realize that it's a German word for grandmother. And my dad would always say, "You're Omi," and I'm like, "Why does he say that? He doesn't know." But we always went to Christmas at her house, and we did it on Christmas Eve, which was cool for me because I got presents earlier than all my friends, and they thought it was super weird. But yeah, she grew up. She was 20 in World War II and had my mom. So the flashback of her childhood is kind of a mixture of my mom's childhood growing up in Germany as the war was ending and kind of like not having food and her town sort of being busted up and that struggle. So they're kind of a hybrid mixture of my mom and grandmother in the Omi.
I love the way that segment was done, like an old Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Was that always the intention to do it that way?
Yeah. There's just something synonymous about Christmas and stop motion animation specials.
Well, you kind of like gave a little clue to it coming with the thing that they were watching.
Well, actually, there's a fun story. So originally we had Charlie Brown. We had the Peanuts Christmas special.
Oh yeah.
And the Charles Schultz estate signed off on it. Wrote a very sweet letter explaining, like, I swear we're not evil. I know this looks like a terrifying, I mean it is, but there's like a Christmas spirit in it. It's really about, it's all about Christmas. Anyway, they signed off on it, but then we had to get permission from the voice of Linus. They weren't having it. They were into it until they saw the trailer, and then we were satanic. We were just blasphemous. But I'm trying to explain to them. I mean, you guys have seen it. It's not. I understand the ire. Like, people can see why they would have an issue with the movie, but we're trying to create something that actually, takes you through this childhood nightmare to show you the importance of the season. Yeah.
It's not Silent Night, Deadly Night. Like
No, but they thought it
just
was.
exploiting
Yeah.
Christmas to
Yeah.
be horrifying. But well, does anybody? Are there